What is going on?
What's going on in 101 Country is going on here. This is what's going on in 101 Country.
Hello and welcome to In.form right here on 101 Country, WBDC, and 18 WJTS. I'm Kaitlyn Neukam. Today in the studio, we welcome back Janet Schnell and Jessica Miller one last time this month to continue our conversation on Suicide Prevention Month. Janet, Jessica, welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, before we get started, will you remind our audience what you each do in your everyday careers that brought you to advocating for suicide prevention? I know you guys have already done this once, twice, multiple times before, but just so that we have that refresh, will you introduce yourselves once again?
Sure. I am a suicide loss survivor, meaning that I lost my brother to suicide over 30 years ago. And due to his death, I went to college to become a licensed clinical social worker. And currently I am now a contractor for the federal government addressing suicide postvention after a suicide occurs, after a suicide attempt occurs for our federal government and in the military.
Yes. And Jessica, you have your very own practice that you kind of help individuals. We have one of your best friends here that says nothing but great things about you in the studio. I'm not going to say who, but you have some fans here in the BDC studio. So
benefits of having a friend who is also a licensed clinical social worker.
Yes. So what do you do as a licensed clinical social worker?
So I have my private practice, Rooted Counseling and Consulting, where I help individuals and families as well as couples work through a life stresses, struggles, and then I also work for the state of Indiana.
Very good. So, ladies, we've been on a journey so far the past month, discussing various things about suicide prevention, things to look for. Again, there's a multitude that I'm going to end up missing some of them. But today we want to specifically dive deeper into bullying. And one thing that I asked you guys before we started on air here was, we're not specifically going to just talk about bullying in childhood, the childhood demographic, but bullying happens every day for everybody. It might look different for everyone else. So what do we need to know about bullying and how that might lead to some darker thoughts eventually?
Well, let me give you the definition of what actually bullying is. It's the use of force, coercion, hurtful teasing or threat, aggressive domination or intimidation. This behavior is something that is repeated and habitual. So that would be the definition. And if you think about it, that doesn't happen just in childhood. It also happens in adulthood.
Right. And that's something that, again, people, being taught what bullying is, and maybe I don't think we were ever taught the actual definition of bullying. You don't really understand that it does not stop in childhood. It follows you through adulthood, and it doesn't matter who it's coming from. If it is harmful and it's repetitive, as you kind of stated, it is an issue and something that you're going to hold with you every single day as you're traversing and whatnot. So, Jessica, what do we need to know about bullying that maybe some people don't know? Or I know you guys have some talking points prepared on what you want people to know about bullying in their everyday lives.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So the article that I have today is from Medical News Today. It's from earlier this year in March, and it indicates that not only does the person who is experiencing bullying, but also the person who is bullying are more likely to experience thoughts of suicide and or follow through with those thoughts of suicide, which I found interesting because I did not think about the person who was targeting someone else as someone who could be struggling as well.
No, I think we maybe as a community or as a society, we might have heard that bullies themselves are their biggest enemies, biggest bullies and whatnot. So you really don't think about that, but it's interesting to think what someone might be thinking themselves to make them lash out to others and maybe, again, bully them in this way. So, again, it's very interesting because we all think of bullying as one thing or, again, stereotype, just like how we think of suicide and suicide prevention. We all have our little pre-notions of what things are, what they mean, how they are. But really just elaborating on bullying and, again, it's many, many, many facets. So, Janet, what do you think we really need to know about bullying, or maybe something you found interesting, or maybe some things we need to start doing to prevent it no matter what age?
Right. So locally, I will identify that Crisis Connection here in Dubois County is a wonderful resource for us to talk about bullying, and especially in the school system. So we do have some really good resources. As a victim of bullying, I can tell you that little support is really given to that person who is being bullied, that we still tend to turn a blind eye to it. We tend to not address it. We tend to not support that person. And boy, can I see how the anxiety and the depression really comes on very fast, and how it really affects your whole body. I had stress hives for the very first time ever in my life because of bullying. And so it's really hard when we don't have people to help support us. Talking about it has been a huge help. I sought counseling because of what had happened to me, and that really was one of the best benefits for me, was to be able to talk about it. Not to have it fixed, but to be able to talk about what happened, and then for me to be able to figure out what I need to do to take care of me. And so, we do have different options, but we really need to be there to help support that person who's being bullied and not turn a blind eye to it. I really feel like in our community, if we would all stand up together when someone's being bullied and say, this is not okay, that would make a huge change. But we tend to not say anything at all. And then, we talk about stigma already with suicide that only leads directly into more stigma related to then, if I'm being bullied and I become depressed, I really can't talk about it then.
Right. I mean, again, bullying will end up silencing people, whether that's the intended purpose or not. And it doesn't matter who you are, because bullying does not discriminate. Mm-hmm. And again, Jessica, I would like to ask, maybe someone is not getting bullied themselves, but maybe they're seeing a family member or a sibling or a coworker that's getting bullied. Because again, bullying can take on many different forms, and it could be that some people really find that they just think they're being funny. They're just joking around, but the person who's receiving that joke, it's not funny to them, and it's more harmful than good.
Right. Yes, I think some of the trends that I am seeing just in my individual practice is one within our school systems. It's peers versus peers, but then also in our workplace, it could be your boss versus you, or your coworkers versus you. And if they're bringing it to their boss, it's being swept under the rug, or they're addressing it with HR, and HR is not wanting to, mix things up. So it really isn't being taken as seriously as what it should be. So if we can teach people to say, hey, you said this, I don't like the way that you said it. Can we maybe change it, or don't do it at all? I don't like it.
Right, and being very, very vocal and standing up for yourself, although very scary, is something that you really need to consider and really try your best to do. Janet, if someone said, say somebody is going to their supervisor or to their teacher or to a parent or trusted adult, and they really aren't finding results, do they just take themselves out of the situation and don't say anything, stay silent, or do they seek out another person and keep being vocal?
You start at the bottom. You started directly with that person who's doing it, and if you don't see a changed behavior, then you need to escalate it. I still think we really need to really concentrate upon ourselves too, because we tend to become we try to reach out and try to change things without taking care of our own emotional health. And I think that we really need to have that support. Mm-hmm. So, start at the bottom, start with the person who's actually doing it, make it stop. And then if that doesn't happen, you just keep going to the next level and the next level and the next level until you start to see a change. Media has really been a big resource that when we look at TV and radio, talking about it is huge. That's where we start to see the change in the stigma. So having this open conversation is a big deal.
Yeah, and I would say, again, as a media person, sometimes we get a bad rap of, social media, that's where it all starts, that's terrible and all that stuff. But at the same time, that's part of why social media has taken off, and it's a asset, is because it is also a place for people to come as they are and voice their concerns and really just make themselves well known. And with that, I think I want to ask, which we will get back to our main topic here, but as far as bullying resources, whether online, in person, and whatnot, I know Janet mentioned Crisis Connection and whatnot. Is there anything else that people can look for maybe online right now to help specifically with bullying? And again, it does not matter what age you are, what gender you are, who you are, where you're getting bullied from. If you need that support, do you have any resources you recommend?
I highly recommend the Trevor Project. It is completely online. They have a crisis line as well. They have amazing resources. I have a couple kids who have used it. It is great. They've reached out to school systems as well. There's also the Stomp Out Bullying project as well. I'm not too familiar with that one. I think it's more new. And then we also have the crisis text line and the teen line.
Right. And Janet, you want to add any additional resources you might think of?
Yeah, we have American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, one directly here in Indiana, who also helps. And we're really talking more about having that open conversation and having other resources.
Right. And it is never a bad thing to write down these resources. Put them in your notes in your phone, or again, if you just need them right now. Or for me, I always open up my browser, put in the website, and then I just leave it there in case I look at it again and I'm like, oh, I was going to look at this. So there are a lot of different options. And again, the multitude of resources is never bad and continually improving because there is a need. Mm-hmm. If there was not a need, there wouldn't be all these resources, which is unfortunate, but knowing that help is out there is super, super, super integral. And ladies, we've had the pleasure of talking with you each week this month as you continue your efforts to prevent suicide. And of course, we commend both of you for all your hard work in spreading the word and knocking down stigmas associated with suicide. September is not yet over, no matter how fast it has felt, especially for me. If someone wanted to make a change and try to do something to help prevent death by suicide, no matter how big or small that change might be, what can they do to still do their part as we wrap up Suicide Prevention Month? I know that's a big, loaded question, but you guys are part experts, so I would imagine you guys have an arsenal of things that you would recommend. So whomever wants to go first.
I would highly suggest training by far. Contact us, Survivors of Suicide of Dubois County, to look at trainings. That seems to be really important because we want to address it before the suicide death occurs. And so we can have a big conversation. And with that, there's a lot of material costs that go along with that. So go to our website, www.sosdc.org, or .com, sorry, and look at our website because we have a donation site that will help pay for those resources so that people who are coming to training don't have to have that financial cost along with it. So we need a lot of financial support, but along with that, look at trainings that we can do that in small group trainings, like within your own family. Or we can even do it in a larger group, like a church Bible group. We can do different types of trainings. So that, for me, would be of most importance.
Right. And Janet, on your specific training program that you guys have kind of pioneered at Survivors of Suicide, it's never too late to sign up for a training course, right?
Right. And what we see is that, like I had said before, is that we're really looking for gatekeepers, which are people who are here in our community. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to have a knowledge base that you think like you're not smart enough to be able to do this training, to be able to make a change, but you are the person that your loved one is turning to when they're struggling. And that's who we're looking for, is for to have some education and resources available so that if you notice something about someone else, you know how to help. You know how to have the resources to get them help also.
Right. And Jessica, I would imagine, again, you deal with a multitude of people all day, every day. You've got Janet here as your sidekick. What else can people do to wrap up the month of September to really make that small change or big change, or just put their foot in the water, whether it's the itty-bitty pinky toe?
I would say my biggest thing to be active in prevention is if you are concerned about someone, ask them, are you thinking about suicide? I've noticed this. Are you thinking about it? You can talk to me. I'm a safe person.
Yes, and again, although it's scary to initiate that type of conversation, it is much necessary because some people don't know how to ask for help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So, ladies, one final time so everyone, has it ingrained in their memories, or they can get their phone notes app out, and wink, wink. What resources would you want to remind our audience of? Again, as residents of Southern Indiana right now, what can people use in case they need help or know others who might need help as a reminder, whether this is the National Crisis Line or whatnot?
988 is our National Crisis text line. Call it, text it. It's there all the time.
Yes. And of course, if anyone wants to get in touch with survivors of suicide, you guys make it super easy as well, right, Janet?
Absolutely. You'll see our telephone number and our email address. And I do want to thank our board members once again, Janet and Shelby and Emily, Beth, Alan, Joni, Jesus, and Mary Lou, because it's together that we make a fantastic team to be able to see changes, and we're here to help.
And that's the end goal, is to be able to help, no matter who you are, where you're coming from, who you're associated with, etc. But ladies, thank you so much again for all your hard work and dedication to preventing suicide in our little vicinity of the world and making Dubois County and beyond a fantastic place to live.
Thank you for having us.
Fantastic. September is Suicide Prevention Month, and any one suicide is one too many. If you are listening or watching, you are not alone. And there are resources available to you, no matter who you are, what age you are, or how lost you feel. Reach out, because suffering in silence is never your only option. I'm Kaitlyn Neukam, and thank you so much for tuning in to In.form here on WBDC and 18 WJTS.